I'm Jamie Labella, and this is 4 for 4 Tech, where we discuss 4 tech topics in just 4 minutes. High stakes for Samsung, the company unveiling its new Galaxy S8 smartphone, the first major device since the company's exploding battery disaster. James, that's a hard reputation to shake. Can they do it?
High stakes indeed. You know, we saw the S7 fiasco last year, and yeah, we finally got the S8. I was there, just got back from there about 20 minutes ago. I have to say I liked it. Got hands-on with the device, got to play with it a bit. There was a lot made about the display on this before it came out. You know, this kind of all-glass, kind of all-cover display. It's got an invisible home button. It's great. It looks sleek. It feels good in your hand. I got a chance to play with a bit of the functionality, so it's a thumbs up in it.
Anthony, out of that exploding disaster, can they really come back from this?
I don't think any one phone is going to fix things for them, but I think the main thing is they just have something they can talk about, as opposed to just every interview, every question is about the exploding battery. I think it's also a good thing that they weren't trying to push battery limits on this one, so knock on wood, that won't be an issue anymore.
Rob, they also rolled out their own voice assistant, Bixby. Are you impressed with that?
Bixby seems really interesting to me, actually. It doesn't have a home button anymore, but the phone does have this button on the side that actually summons Bixby. It's kind of an intelligent assistant. It's like Siri, but it also makes use of the camera and does some other functions. It tries to learn from your habits. I think it seems pretty cool.
Guys, you might want to hold those thoughts for our next topic, because if you can think it, he can download it. Elon Musk's new venture wants to connect computers directly to human brains that can eventually upload and download your thoughts. Of course. Anthony, when does this guy sleep, and what is he thinking?
Well, I don't know Elon's sleep habits. I mean, maybe that's one of the things he's going to try to work on with this company. One thing I do think it's important to note is this is very much a very early idea. So he wants to start this company, Neuralink. Really, in terms of details of the technology, we know almost nothing. The basic idea, though, is to create an interface between humans and computers, and initially to focus on treatment of diseases like, say, epilepsy or severe depression.
And James, Musk says that we need this type of technology to compete with AI going forward. Is that a fair statement? Well,
I think that there's a whole, it's worth having the discussion about how do we interact with devices, kind of, is it just going to be purely handheld, or is there another way of doing this? Like, there may be use for it in specific industries, there may be use of it, as was said earlier, around kind of medicine and science. I think it's worth considering, it's worth putting that out there.
Rob, is it just a matter of time until this becomes a reality, or is this idea just too out there?
Well, I think it's really interesting, actually, when we look at the intersection of like artificial or synthetic devices and human biology. And one thing that I reported on recently is that devices tend to create scar tissue. And so researchers are looking for ways to try to beat that.
Well, speaking of the future of tech, one is dressed in silver. Smartphones of the future could have touchscreens made with transparent silver, according to researchers from the University of Michigan. Rob, what's behind the potential switch?
Yeah, if you look at your smartphone or a TV screen, it has this material in it called indium tin oxide, or ITO. And that material does two things really well. It conducts electricity, and it's also transparent. But researchers are always just keeping their eyes out for alternatives. And one researcher at the University of Michigan has suggested using transparent silver, very, very thinly spread, and it also conducts electricity well, but it's also transparent as well, and it could actually lead to like more bendable or flexible displays. So it's cool new tech.
Anthony, do you think we'll switch over? What would this cost us?
I mean, it sounds like this is still very much in the research phases, so probably not in the next few years. I do think one of the most promising things is the idea that not just for smartphones, but because it's supposed to be more flexible, for other kinds of devices like smartwatches and other kinds of wearables, this could be very interesting.
James, normally when silver hits the air, it's tarnished. So what makes this different?
I mean, well, it's going to be treated differently. I mean, it's early days for this, though. I mean, I think that the key thing for me is this whole notion of flexibility. Like, we were talking earlier about the S8. There's more about curved displays. There's going to be a lot done with display technology over the next 5 and 10 years. If we have something to add to the mix with this, then that could be great.
So we're moving to high tech and currency. Say goodbye to the round pound. The UK unveiling, quote, the most secure coin in the world, according to the Royal Mint, to help stop the flow of counterfeit money. James, what's so different about this secure coin?
I wish I had one of these to show you. Actually, I wish I had many of them. But yeah, so there's a lot of features in it. There's micro lettering. But the main thing is there's kind of a hidden secret technology in there, which is going to basically make life very, very difficult for counterfeiters. Something with a very strong electromagnetic signature that's going to work with vending machines and kind of coin count machines to basically let them identify whether these coins are real or not. So it's kind of an amazing step forward.
Anthony, what happens to our old coins, our old round pounds?
Well, I don't have too many pounds myself, but I would imagine that it's sort of a gradual process of phasing things in and out, and then maybe, several years after it's sort of been launched, then everyone is expected to have it.
Rob, do you expect this to put an end to forgery and to counterfeit money?
I doubt it would put an end to it, and I think it's interesting to see the tech that experts use to try to stay one step ahead of counterfeiters. You know, if you look at American currency, bills like the 5 and the 10 have a strip in them, and when you look at it under UV light, it actually changes and is a different color depending on the denomination. So this kind of tech's really cool.
James, will this pave the way for other countries to hop on board with their currencies?
Well, I mean, countries are always looking at what kind of other countries are doing around this type of thing. You know, I mean, the UK moved towards an unusual type of note last year, kind of almost like a quote-unquote plastic note, which is extremely durable. So, you know, trends are set all over the place, so we'll have to see.
Well, Sir Isaac Newton would be proud. Now, you know, we think, and we want to hear from you. Tell us what you think using the hashtag 4for4Tech.